Attorney for the Southern District of Texas. Before we begin the conference, I want my colleagues behind me to introduce themselves, each one of them to y'all.
I'm Fred Milanowski, especially in charge of ATF Houston Field Division.
I'm T. Michael O'Connor, Sheriff of Victoria County.
I'm Ed Michelle. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI.
Tom Legler, Fire Marshal, City of Victoria.
Jeff Craig, Chief of Police, Victoria Police Department.
Tanner Drake, Fire Chief, Victoria Fire Department.
Heath Malvin, Deputy State Fire Marshal.
Drew Pilkington, Texas Ranger, Texas Department of Public Safety.
Sergeant Sam Miguel, Texas Department of Public Safety.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Abe Martinez. I'm the Acting Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Texas. Just by way of background, I'm sure most of you know that we are a very large, very diverse district. Numerous counties here. Houston is one of the larger cities, but we also cover McAllen, Laredo, Brownsville, Corpus Christi, Victoria, in addition to Galveston, and we go up as far as Bryan College Station. The reason why I say all that is because as big a district as we are a very diverse district. So much so that we have a very large Islamic population within our district. In fact, the Houston metro area has the second largest Islamic population in the country, second only to Lansing, Michigan. That's important because, as I point out, this is a very diverse district. In addition to that, we are a center of trade around the world. We have, only second to New York and Washington, D.C., the largest number of diplomatic establishments. And so matters such as the one that you are here today are very important to us. Just by way of background, you all know that the Victoria Islamic Center opened back in the year 2000. And there was a lot of fanfare because in a community like this, it's important that the community know who's moving in to the area and what they represent. So much fanfare that we had Akeem Olajuwon, who is, as we all know, a legendary basketball player for the Houston Rockets, come down here. And there were other celebrities, just to show you that it was a very big event. The Islamic Center had run out of a house, and now they actually had a beautiful center that they could be proud of. A center that developed as a house of worship for over 40 families over the last several years. A mosque big enough to hold 500 people. As we all know, families came to this mosque to pray and hold religious celebrations. They also came there on Friday to congregate one another, to share meals, a beautiful place for people to come together. Which brings us to why we're here today. Then on January 22nd of 2017, the mosque was burglarized. Persons made entrance into the mosque in the wee hours of the morning, about 1:51 a.m. And for about 20 minutes, the motion detectors indicated that people were moving throughout that mosque. And for about 20 minutes, they rummaged through wherever they could. And later that day, at approximately 6 a.m., one of the mosque leaders came to the mosque and discovered that it had been broken into. He discovered that cellular telephones and a laptop computer had been taken from the mosque itself. Obviously, a report was filed with the police, and an investigation was started. And it might have been so bad if it had ended there. A week later, on January 28th of 2017, perpetrators broke into the mosque again. And again, they disabled the alarm, and they got in there, and the motion detectors showed that about 1:56 a.m., the back door was open and somebody went in. People moved in that place for approximately 8 minutes and then left the premises. And then at 2:10 a.m. in the morning, a convenience clerk noticed a conflagration at the mosque. The mosque was totally up in flames. Now, the Victoria Fire Department did its best effort to try to put the fire out, endangering the lives of some of the fire department personnel who were out there, but were unable to save the mosque. It burned to the ground. It was totally gutted. All these gentlemen that you see behind me instituted a complete, thorough investigation to determine how this could have happened. And I'm here today to let you know that what this has culminated in is a superseding indictment returned by a grand jury. And in count one, it charges that Marq Vincent Perez, aiding and abetting and helped by others, intentionally defaced, damaged, and destroyed the Victoria Islamic Center with use of dangerous weapons, explosives, and a firearm. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a hate crime. It's punishable by up to 20 years in prison. Count two charges that Marq Perez, again, aiding and abetting, aided and abetted by others, knowingly used fire and explosive to burn down the mosque. In other words, he's charged with arson in count two of the indictment. In count three of the indictment, most of you are familiar with because that's what he was arrested under, and that is that he possessed an unregistered destructive device. These are the allegations that have been included in the indictment, allegations that were returned in the form of a superseding indictment by the grand jury. Well, let me say this. Intentionally defacing, damaging, or destroying a religious house of worship, such as a mosque here, is a federal crime. A crime that is intolerable in a free and open society of the type that we live in. This indictment should send notice to violators that such crimes will not be tolerated, that they will be thoroughly investigated, and they will be aggressively prosecuted. At this point, I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Good afternoon. Again, my name is Fred Milanowski. I'm the special agent in charge of ATF Houston Field Division. ATF will continue to respond and aggressively investigate all fires at houses of worship. These are sacred places in America, and we stand with the communities of the more than 150 houses of worship fires that we have investigated in the last year. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Ed Michel. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI here in Houston, and I'm also responsible for the surrounding areas, including Victoria. Everyone deserves the right and the freedom to exercise their religious beliefs without obstruction, and to feel safe doing so inside their own house of worship. The FBI, along with my partners here today, will combine our resources effectively to mitigate any of these threats facing anyone in our community, and we will do so aggressively. I want the public to know that it's important to come forward if you know of any of these crimes that may have happened or may be happening. You can call us. You can call us at our number at 713-693-5000, or you can visit our website at www.fbi.gov. Thank you.
My name is Jeff Craig, Chief of Police for Victoria Police Department. And on behalf of public safety agencies, the local public safety agencies, I'd just like to point out that this is an excellent example of cooperation from local, state, and federal authorities working together to solve this crime. And as we continue to move forward, I take comfort in the fact that these individuals, these agencies standing behind me have done an excellent job in working with the leadership in the Islamic community, Islamic Center, who I also want to acknowledge played a very important role in working with us cooperatively to obtain the information that we did have. So on behalf of that, I would just like to say that I appreciate the work that everyone behind us did as we continue to move forward in this case. Thank you.
At this time, we'll take some questions, but I want you to be mindful of the fact that we are mindful that the defendant or the person charged in this case is innocent until proven guilty. As a result of that, we have limitations on what comments we can make about what's charged and any evidence in the case.
Did you find any evidence in his belongings that led to this conclusion?
That led to the conclusion
Property
that what?
of the mosque in his home or things like that?
Evidence of that nature was revealed during a detention hearing a while back. So the answer to your question is yes.
What did you find?
I don't want to comment specifically on all the evidence that we gathered.
But it was belongings at the mosque that were found in his possession?
It was evidence to indicate that he had been in the mosque.
Do you expect any other people charged?
I will tell you that the investigation continues, and that if facts are developed that would show that others need to be charged, we will consider that. We will return to the grand jury.
Has anyone else been charged in connection yet?
No.
During that hearing that you were referring to in January, or rather March, I'm sorry, there was mention of a confidential informant. Is there any plans to charge this person? Is he cooperating? What can you tell us about that person?
We can't comment about the confidential informant.
Can you clarify whether the fire started on the 28th or the 29th? Because I understand you said it was noticed at 2 a.m., so.
It was on the 28th.
The 28th?
Yes.
So what are you looking for now? What do you need in terms of people's cooperation, and what happens from here?
Well, what happens from here is the defendant will be bound over for trial. And I anticipate that the prosecution team, part of whom is here today, will present evidence and be able to demonstrate to the jury that a crime was committed. And it's our expectation that the jury will hear evidence about the allegations that are contained in the indictment.
The defendant is a resident of Victoria, I assume?
Yes.
Is there a difference between a charge for a hate crime versus burning of a church? So the crime as it is set right now?
Well, by definition, burning a church, because in this case of its character and the people who worship there, is what makes it a hate crime.
What evidence do you have that would demonstrate the defendant's motive was motivated by hate?
That's evidence that we'll present at trial.
With the investigation, what can you tell us about what you know of whether or not he acted alone?
Well, the allegations in the indictment reflect that he didn't act alone, that he was innovated by others, known and unknown to the grand jury.
Should members of the Victoria community, including our Muslim members, be wary about potential violence from people who are still out there who might have abetted the defendant?
I can't speculate on that.
For those who are nervous in the community that something like this may happen again, you know, what does anybody here who might be able to answer that has to say to those who might be feeling uncomfortable knowing that there were multiple people?
Well, let me say this. I think people in the community should rest assured that all of the law enforcement officials that stand behind me are prepared to protect them and protect their rights. And they should rest confident that if we develop any evidence or learn of anybody who would commit similar acts, that they will be investigated, and as I said, they will be prosecuted.
Are any of those other persons, including the confidential informant, jailed or detained or in custody of some sort?
I'm not going to comment on any of those cooperators or any of the informants. I can't do that right now.
Is Perez's third charge the possession of the destructive device? Is that related to has that been connected to the mosque arson?
No, that's a separate charge.
Would I be able to direct a question to Ed, Michelle?
Sure.
Would you be able to, just talk about what you all need from people who see our stories today? How can they help?
Sure. In many of these instances, as we go through the investigation and follow up to the steps to create and prepare a case for prosecution that the United States Attorney deems necessary in any of these cases, somebody saw something or somebody heard something in many of these cases. So I would just ask everyone out there that if you hear someone that is thinking about doing something like this, or you know something, please call us. You can visit our website. It's anonymous. You can just leave a tip for us. It's important because we can't do this alone. We need everybody's help. And to answer your other question about what can we do, and about how the citizens, are they feeling safe? Rest assured that we will use all of our resources to make sure that when this happens, if it happens, and to try to prevent it, but if it does happen, we're going to combine our resources effectively to make sure that this doesn't happen. So we're here for you. It's our job to serve.
I also have a question for you, sir. And do you think that this arson in Victoria is part of a larger trend of violence directed at Muslims in Texas and maybe the United States?
Well, I don't know about the trending numbers, but again, when anyone is targeted, we have specific laws on the books that make sure that people aren't targeted based on their race, their sex, or their religion. And we will use those laws aggressively to make sure that we protect the people of the U.S. and here in Victoria. We have plenty of tools in our toolbox.
No further questions?
Could we talk with Chief Greg, please?
Sure.
Chief, could you just tell us, obviously lots of efforts to make this, it doesn't magically happen. What are some of the things that you can tell us that you all have been working on in order to get to today?
Well, obviously, this was a pretty major undertaking that required, the help of everybody standing behind me today. So, like I said earlier, I think it's a really classic example of not only, state, local, and federal partners coming together, but also community coming together. So, from what I see, I think that it's taken an awful lot to get to where we are today, but it certainly has been an event that was important to us, and it's our community, and so we felt it. But at the same time, I think that we've got to a point in time, and it's not over yet. It's an ongoing investigation, but we got to a point in time where we have to at least take a look at what we've done so far, and I think it's very positive.
How devastated was the community after this happened? I know that it was mentioned that there is a large Muslim population, but also those who are supportive of the Muslim population here. What was it like working with them? What was their emotion?
I've been doing this for 35 years, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. Where I saw, the community come together, praying together, gathering together, sharing of information. It was pretty remarkable.
Looking at this sheet, this information sheet, it says that a violation of the statute is a misdemeanor unless prosecutors prove one of the statutory aggravating factors. Can you tell us what that factor is in this case? If you didn't already, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what are you looking at?
The information sheet. It says that a violation of the statute is a misdemeanor unless prosecutors prove one of the statutory aggravating factors. In which case, in this case, which is that?
The aggravating factors that the hate crimes that we're asking about in count one?
Correct.
Yes, that the crime was committed because of the nature of the facility itself.
A question for the police attorney's office. Considering that Perez was arrested in early March, why has it taken this long for charges related to the mosque arson?
Very good question. These are very difficult crimes to prove. They require the interview of countless people, the analysis of a lot of evidence. Forensic evidence can be difficult to turn around in terms of whether it's what we believe it is, in this case an arson or not. It takes a while to determine those types of factors to ensure that before we bring a charge that we have a pretty good idea that the charges that we're bringing are accurate. So it took a long time for investigators to finish the investigation. It took time for prosecutors to put the evidence together and formulate charges.
How long has a grand jury been investigating these charges, and is that a grand jury in Victoria?
I can't comment on what the grand jury does or how long they've been working. Those are things that are typically kept secret under the rules.
How do you determine that it's a hate crime? And was there a hate spray painted in front of the mosque at some point, is what I read somewhere?
Again, a determination is made by the character of the building itself that's burned. In this case, it was a mosque. It was a house of worship. Muslims go there to pray and to celebrate their faith. That's all we'll take for now. Thank you very much.